Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode of the Daily D. Today's topic is should versus must. So if you think about shoulds versus must, really just think about the word should, right? Should means to take action. Should means I should take action rather, right? It means I'm thinking about it. It is something that I know I should do, right? These are the shoulds. And a must is I will get something done. It's going to get done. This is what's got to happen. I will not accept anything other than this. You see, these are the shoulds versus must in life. And if you think about everything that you do in life, I mean, just think about business and life, I guess. If you just think about it, there's a lot of things that we should do. There's a lot of things. Every day we should do things, right? We should eat less or healthier. We should work out or do more cardio or be active, right? We should make more money. We should save more money. We should pay down our debt. Right? We should spend more time with our family. I mean, these are things maybe all of them don't agree with you, but we should do some of these things, right? We all should. And then there's these musts, right? I must have lunch. You see that? I must eat lunch. I must have breakfast. I must eat out. I must go to this restaurant. I must have this car. I must live in this neighborhood. I must live in this city. I must. So let me tell you what must and should really tie down to. They tie to something called standards. And our standards is what we are going to accept in life. If you think about a standard, it's what you're willing to not go below or go without, if you will. For an example, many times, if you're like me, right? When I first started traveling for different things, like for work, most of my travel has always been for work. I've really never, I mean, I guess in the last few years I've traveled more for pleasure, but I really did most of my traveling initially for work. And when I would do that, I learned, I had some friends and I asked them for discounts on different hotels because they worked there. And I would always stay at what the name of the places are, like Super 8, a Days Inn, a Comfort Inn, a Red Roof Inn. These are hotels that I would stay at. And I stayed at a lot of them. And I mean, lots of nights. I never really had the opportunity to stay anywhere else because I couldn't afford it. And because I couldn't afford it, I would just stay there. I mean, most of the hotels were $49 a night, $59 a night. That's what I could afford at the time. And so that's where I would stay. If we took a trip, if you've been with us for a while in our businesses or worked with me in the past, you'll know that in my beginning years, most of my travel was through a car and a Super 8. You know, I was like an elite status with Super 8, by the way. I don't even know if that means anything, but it definitely meant something then. Well, that was what I call my standard. So I would grade Super 8s as I would go to different ones across the state or across the country. I would grade them. You know, that was a nice one. That one had breakfast. That one was clean. That one was pretty gangster. I didn't feel safe at that one. You see, these are the things but I guess I would get a standard. And then one time I stayed at this really nice Super 8. I mean, it was a brand new Super 8. It had really cool LED lights. They had this amazing breakfast bar. And once I stayed there, all the other Super 8s that I stayed at were just crap in comparison. And I realized that I couldn't go back to those places, right? So that was, again, where I changed my standard. So then I continued on my path, right? And I always tell myself, man, I don't want to stay at this one. I don't want to stay at that one. I would actually start looking at the reviews online and try to make sure I got the best one, had the best everything. Until one day I was invited to an event. I got invited to an event by Liberty Tax Corporate. They wanted me to speak in an event as a representative of the brand to showcase what it is that we do and why we did it. And so they invited me to this event. They said, hey, we're going to pay for airfare and we're going to get you a car and we're going to put you up in a hotel. I said, let's do it, right? I'm excited. And so they did this and they put me up at a Hilton. No, this wasn't a Hilton. This was a Westin. And a Westin is a really high-end chain of hotels. I mean, this is high-end. This is really nice stuff. You see, I'd never been to a hotel that gave you room service. I had never been to a hotel where you got to walk inside to get to your hotel room, not outside, right? I had never been to a hotel where they had hot breakfast, where they made it for you. I had never been to a hotel where they had, different types of soaps and shampoos and facial wipes and all that stuff. Never done that before. I'd never been to a hotel where you didn't go change the air conditioner on the window, right? I hadn't done those things. So when I went there, this was all different to me, all unique. But as I got there, I was like, man, this is really nice. Wow, this is pretty impressive, right? And so that was paid for by somebody else. That wasn't mine. But when I got back home, a few weeks later, I had to take a trip, and I had to book my hotel. And I kept on thinking, gosh, I can't stay at a Super 8, man. That was junk. That stuff's junk. Why do I want to do that? So what happened was that next trip, I stayed at a Hilton, and it was about $50 more a night. It was way more than I'd like to spend, but I could not convince myself to go back to Super 8. What that did to me was raise my standards. Even though it was stretching my budget, even though it was making me want to, I can't believe I'm paying this. I had to do it because I couldn't go back. It became a must to me. My standards went so high that I had to become a must. Can't do I would always say I should stay at the Super 8. I really should stay at a Hilton. I really should do this until it became a must. And that's my standard. That became my standard today. And it is my standard now, right? I don't go travel. I don't travel and I won't stay at a Super 8. I mean, I'm not saying I'm better than that. I'll just tell you, I've got high standards now. My musts are here, right? My musts are here. My musts are continuing to go higher. Every time you expose yourself to something different, your musts will increase. For an example, you'll meet people who will say, I won't work for less than this much an hour, because they must receive it. Now, the challenge there is that some people get lucky and get a lucky break, and then they just, they'll never get there again, but they can try, right? I guess they can try, but really there's shoulds and there's musts. Now, in life, I don't want to keep on going with this, but in life, we have to understand that we must take those shoulds and turn them into musts, right? When we say we must save X amount of dollars, I must make this much money, I must travel here, I must stay here, I must do this, I must give this. You see, for an example, if some of you have children, right? And some people watching this may have children, and let me tell you something. Now, no matter your opinion, doesn't matter about your opinion right now of what's better or what's not and what gets more and what doesn't, but let me tell you something. If you had the opportunity to send your child to the best school academically, if that's a priority to you, that would ensure that they got the most quality education and they would associate themselves with very successful families and possibly be given opportunities and be pushed to a education system, let's say a Ivy League school, Harvard, Stanford, Penn State, something big, but pushed that way because of their associations, and where everybody around them just talked about going to Harvard and becoming doctors. If you could put your children in that environment, would you do it? The answer for most people is yes. Now, here's the catch. What if I told you you could do it, but it's going to cost you $20,000 a year? Some of you'd say, well, I couldn't afford that. Shouldn't that be a must? Shouldn't you figure out how to do it? Shouldn't you raise your standards? Shouldn't you look for ways to make it happen? Now, this isn't to tell you that anybody's a bad parent if they don't do that. What I'm trying to tell you is when you turn, I should send my kids to that, to I must send my kids to that school, then you must get the skills to make that kind of money. You must put transactions together. You must render service. You must do better. See how that becomes? See how that becomes something? Now, all of us have changed a should to a must at one point in our life, right? I should do this for my child. I should do this for my kids. I should do this for me. And then you did it. You must do it. And you never go back. You only eat this type of meat. You only eat at this type of restaurant. You only stay at these types of hotels. You only drive this type of car, and you won't drive anything less than that. And if you don't feel that way yet, it's because you have too many shoulds and not enough musts. Raise your standards today. Raise them. Decide today that this is the last time I'll ever drive that piece of shit. Decide today that's the last time we'll ever stay at that place. Decide today that's the last time I will ever accept subpar service or disrespect, because I should expect more, and I must get it. I must. Think about that. Think about that. And you'll all remember when you had something that you just were blown away with, a service, a drink, an experience, a meal. And now you're just saying, gosh, how can you go back? Like, how could you go back down to that level? I've got to find a way to get this to be my must. I hope this helps you today. Stop shooting on yourself. Stop shooting on yourself. I wish you nothing but success, happiness, great wealth and health, but most importantly, freedom. Thanks, guys.